We have some breaking news this morning out of the NFL, and it is some pretty shocking news, in my opinion. It is some news that I think could have a ripple effect all throughout the league. It's definitely going to affect this franchise, I think, in a bad way for years to come. It could affect some things like draft picks and all of that, but we'll get to that. Let's talk about the story. It says emails have been released detailing the Saints' assistance to the New Orleans Archdiocese in sexual abuse scandal. We're going to lay out a little background for y'all. The Archdiocese of New Orleans, obviously the Catholic community and all of those things, all the different churches, they're still, they're heavily involved in the Vatican. This is actually the second oldest archdiocese in the United States. And we know that the last few years, there's been a lot of different accusations and things come out against Catholic priests all across the world. Not just in this place right here, but all across the world. There have been a lot of these accusations. I mean, we're talking thousands of accusations of people coming out claiming sexual misconduct against children and all of those things. The Archdiocese of New Orleans is no exception. They have had a lot of their authority figures down there accused of this, and there was going to be a list released of all of these people, so you could obviously know. I mean, you need to know these things. You be able to, like, this affects you being able to protect your children. You don't want to trust your children with these people if you know these allegations have been brought against them. And there was going to be a list released. Well, apparently, they wanted some people's names removed from that list. Some pretty high-profile people that obviously that would not be a very good light. And so apparently the Saints, whose owner, Gail Benson, is a devout Catholic. She is very involved with all the different things. Her late husband that passed away in 2018 actually was introduced to her by the Archbishop at the diocese now. So they're very close. They have he's ridden on the private jet with him. He's become part of the team and all these different stuff. But they don't want that man getting some mud thrown on his name, I guess. They're trying to make him the trailblazer for who leads them out of all this stuff. But apparently there were several names removed from this list. Then the Saints had a lot to do with that, using some of their pull and some of their different resources and things. And, the Archdiocese of New Orleans has since gone into bankruptcy. All this stuff's been going on since like 2018. And they wound up having to file for bankruptcy and all of those things back in 2020. And they like I said, they've had different things removed from the newspapers. There was an article in one of the newspapers down there that said, was kind of calling for sexual abuse victims to speak out and come forward if they had any stories, things like this. They're trying to get this list, man. And it's drawn a lot of attention from the federal and state authorities. It's starting to draw attention from the NFL. There's people seeking a lot of financial compensation for all of this. But the story where the Saints are tied into this, and y'all see this list down here. This is this list. Look at this list, how big that is, man. That is a huge list of pedophiles right there. And more times than not, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, this is a list that was released, and a lot of the names that came out are people that have been deceased. Some of them have been convicted, they're still alive and been, but I think there were a few people that were removed from the list. They were trying to, a lot of times they would just transfer them. They wouldn't call the authorities. They wouldn't let them know about these allegations of sexual abuse. They would just transfer them to another archdiocese and let them go on about their lives, which means they're still a predator right back out there, right in the middle of everything that they, people's lives they can affect. You're just putting them out there to do it to somebody else in a different spot. So that's a bad look by the church. Obviously, they didn't want to bring, the negative light on them and all of that. But that's a bad look, man. You got to report this stuff as soon as you know it. And this has been going on for eons, it seems. Because like I said, a lot of these people on this list, they wound up letting them release. They wanted him to be able to release the list. And that's where the Saints have come in to this whole thing, is because they've helped use, it says some of this stuff right here. Read this. It says Saints executives were so involved in the church's damage control that a team spokesman briefed his boss on a 2018 call with the city's top prosecutor hours before the church released a list of clergymen accused of abuse. The call, the spokesman said, allowed us to take certain people off the list. And they have denied that adamantly before, that they had nothing to do with any of that, and that they absolutely had nothing to do. They don't support this. They didn't have anything to do with any of these people's names being put on or taken off this list. They adamantly denied that since 2018. It says team officials were among the first people outside the church to view that list, a carefully curated yet undercounted roster of suspected pedophiles. The disclosure of those names invited civil claims against the church and drew attention from federal and state law enforcement. The team's president, Dennis Lauscha, drafted more than a dozen questions that Archbishop Gregory Amen should be prepared to answer as he faced reporters. So they're going as far as you got the team's president writing out questions for the man so he doesn't get caught up there with his pants down, literally, talking about all this stuff. They've got him prepared going in. So even the Saints PR people are helping this man navigate through this to try to make it, not as bad a look. I don't know how it's not a bad look. I mean, Jesus, give me a break here. Says the Saints senior vice president of communications, Greg Bensel, provided fly-on-the-wall updates to Lasha about local media interviews suggesting church and team leaders were all on the same team. He is doing well, Bensel wrote, as Archbishop told reporters the church was committed to addressing the crisis. That is our message, Bensel added, that we will not stop here today. So they are literally, just kind of throw dirt over some of this stuff. They're not, this is a bad look. This is a really bad look for the Saints right here. And this all comes on the heels of them about to host the Super Bowl in their stadium this week. Roger Goodell is not going to be happy today when he has to answer a bunch of questions about this the week before the Super Bowl in that stadium. Because this is something that can go as far. If you were doing this, like I said, they've tried very hard to keep all of these emails and all of these communications tied up to where they even went to court at one point in time to make it to where these emails could not be released. And obviously that has not been the case. They have since been able to release. After the AP first reported on the alliance in the early 2020, Saints owner Gail Benson denied that anyone associated with our organization made recommendations or had input on the list of pedophile priests. The Saints reiterated that denial in their statement Saturday, saying no Saints employees had any responsibility for adding or removing any names from that list. The team has said that no employees offered any input, suggestions, or opinions as to who should be included or omitted from the list. And that is clearly a lie. And these emails are going to go on to prove that, where they've obviously communicated back and forth with several high-profile people to try to keep this stuff under wraps. And they've deliberately removed some peoples that have been allegedly accused of this stuff. They've deliberately removed some of those names from the list, so it's not as bad a look. Like I said, a lot of the list that was released wound up being people that had already been deceased. Obviously you can't punish them, and it's like, well, we can't do anything about this person. So they're trying to make themselves look good, but you got to 100% believe that list is not 100% accurate either. There are definitely some predators still hiding down in the wings and the shadows of these places that just haven't came to light yet. So this blows my mind when I see an NFL franchise here that is going out of their way to help cover this stuff. It's been a real problem in the world, obviously, for hundreds of years now. And this is never going to end if we don't get a stranglehold on this thing. But you've got organizations that are have all the resources available to them, have, all the media backing, the public backing and things like that. And you're using that for evil, in my opinion, when you're trying to cover this stuff up. There's no excuse for this right here. And I think it's a bad look for the Saints. And I think they get whatever they deserve. Like I said, Roger Goodell is not going to be very happy when he's got to answer questions about this stuff today on the eve of the Super Bowl, the week before. He's not going to be happy about this. And this is something that can come back where Roger Goodell winds up saying, hey, this is conduct detrimental to the league. And he winds up hammering down on them. I mean, he can fine them, he can suspend people, and he can take draft picks from them, which is what they need more than anything right now. Well, we've been talking on the morning show about why does nobody want this job? Why is nobody wanting the Saints job? Well, there might have been some rumblings in the background to some of these guys that this stuff's going on. And you might be put in a bad spot. I'm telling you right now, Will's been telling y'all on all these Kalshi markets and all that stuff, those of y'all that like to bet those things, Kellen Moore is the heavy favorite and all that. I think you go double down on anybody that's not Kellen Moore in those damn Kalshi markets, because I don't think there's any way with this stuff coming out, win, lose, or draw for the Eagles on Sunday, I don't think there's any way Kellen Moore takes this damn job, because he don't want to step in this shit. He don't want to be in this mess. And I don't know any coach that does, other than some guy that's going to be like a Band-Aid to kind of bridge the gap here. But I don't think you're getting any big name coach to come in and take this job now on the heels of all this, especially not knowing what Roger Goodell is going to do to you because I got a feeling that Mr. Goodell is not very happy this morning. The fact that all this stuff is coming out, like I said, a week before the Super Bowl, when you're playing the game in their stadium, it's bad timing. It's a bad look, man. And it's going to be a ripple effect throughout the league for some time to come, I think. I think the Saints are going to get exactly what they deserve. And if they've been doing this and if they have helped cover this up, that's exactly what they deserve, man. I think they ought to move the damn franchise out of the city if that's the case. Because if you're hiding this stuff, in my opinion, you are the worst of the worst. But this is a bad deal. It's just now starting to all more so come to light. It's like I said, been going on for some time now. But this is the first we've heard about these emails being released and all this. And it portrays the Saints ownership and the higher-ups in the Saints franchise as pretty shady folks when it comes to that stuff. So we'll have to see what comes out of this and how Roger Goodell responds. He'll probably have a press conference for the Super Bowl here in just a couple hours, and I'm sure there will be some reporters there firing some of these questions at him, wanting to know how he feels. And they may be one of those things where he's no comment right now, but I guarantee you that man's already stewing, thinking about how he's going to hammer down on these folks because he does not like this. It's not a good look for the league, and he damn sure don't like it a week before the biggest event in your sport, and you're playing the game in that city. This is not a good deal, man. It's not a good deal for the Saints, and if this is true and they have been doing these things, they get exactly what they deserve. So let us know what you think about this, man. Comment below. Smash that like button for us. Give us a follow. But we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. But until next time, good luck, good gambling, and game on.